As we continue into the 2nd century, we arrive at another church author with a less hostile tone towards Jews than Melito, but we'll still find the same basic arguments as before, and still no foreshadowing of schemes of perpetual Jewish punishment for the death of Jesus. Tertullian's Against the Jews brings us to the late 2nd century AD. It's mostly a sort of apologetic directed to Jews, but we do find brief references to the death of Jesus made in books 8 and 13. What we find in Tertullian is partly old, partly new. Like those we examined before, he echoes the New Testament in declaring corporate responsibility for the death of Jesus. He also sees the Jewish exile as punishment for the death of Jesus. We also see for the first time an appeal of Matthew 27:25, which Tertullian sees as an acceptance of responsibility. What's missing? We don't find any clear outline of just how far in time and space Tertullian sees the exile as punishment extending. The corporate responsibility argument, in strictly theological terms, made some sense while Tertullian and the Judeans of his day lived in the shadow of the Bar Kokhba revolt. But we don't see Tertullian extending the punishment to other Jews further on in time and space either. We also don't see Matthew 27:25 being read as a self-execration, dooming all Judeans from then on to some sort of persistent punishment. If we were to read Tertullian without any further assumptions, we would suppose that he considered dispersion and exile to be sufficient retribution, and in turn we'd find nothing in the New Testament that justified much later persecution activity. We'll close by adding one other author for brief notice. Irenaeus of Lyons wrote his Demonstration of Apostolic Preaching in the late 2nd century AD. It contains a very short description of the execution of Jesus. Other oddities might concern us about this passage, but the one we're presently concerned with is the one that says Pilate was constrained by Herod and the Jews that were with him against his will. Pilate didn't act against his will, so we would regard this reading as a misinterpretation of the Gospel accounts. But it's just as clear that Irenaeus limits Judean responsibility for the death of Jesus to those who were with Herod. That means the Judean leadership. Notably, Irenaeus prefaces this record with a quotation of Psalm 2:1, which asks why the kings and princes of the earth rage against the Lord's anointed. There's no sign that he places any blame on Judeans beyond that limited circle.